Panelists are here, but we'll usher them as soon as they join us. I have great honor to present to you Mr. Yogesh Zope, very senior IT leader. He's the Chief Digital Officer of the Kalyani Group and Senior VP Bharat Forge Limited, also a senior member of the CIO Klub. Dr. Avdut Parab, Global Chief Information Officer of Wockhardt. My honor to also present to you Mr. Kaushik Ghate, Senior Vice President and Head of Customer Analytics and Data Sciences at HDFC Bank. Ms. Anjana Rao, Chief Strategy Officer, India First Life Insurance. Welcome, ma'am. Mr. Anuj Gupta, Executive Architect, Data, AI and Automation at IBM Software Labs, India and South Asia. Mr. Sanjeev Mehta, Country Manager, AMD. And Mr. Utpal Chakraborty, former Head of Artificial Intelligence at Yes Bank. So, over to you, Sandeep.
Devi, thank you very much. I'm honored to be here in the presence of the august audience and of course, my panelists. So first of all, I'd like to say a very good afternoon. And if you are in some other part of the world, then good morning, good evening, wherever you are. As Devi mentioned, the theme of our panel discussion today is optimizing intelligent automation in the age of competitive disruption to create a highly intelligent enterprise. I mean, this phrase says a lot. But as you all know, India is at the leading edge of emerging technology revolution, which is particularly led by the shared services, which we've seen, and they've morphed into what we now call the global capability centers. However, not to be left behind, the local industry, and when I say local industry, I mean both the multinational and Indian corporates are also adopting emerging technology rapidly. Partly because, one, you can deploy this in an agile manner at scale and relatively low cost. But to a large extent, this has been accelerated by the pandemic, which has affected one and all. Now, while each organization has adapted to the challenges thrown by the pandemic differently, one thing really stood out, which is everyone's leveraging emerging technologies such as robotic process automation, machine learning, natural language processing and generation, artificial intelligence, chatbots, you name it, intelligent workflow, intelligent OCR, etc. We will talk more about this with our esteemed panelists, and I have with me today a fairly large panel, each of whom are stalwarts in their respective area with very, very vast and deep experiences. Gentlemen and ladies, I'm honored to be in your company. Let me quickly introduce them, and in no particular order. I know Dave did it, but just for the benefit of the audience, once again, I have with me Yogesh Zope, who is the Chief Digital Officer for Kalyani Group and Senior VP for Bharat Forge, Dr. Avdut Parab, the Global Chief Information Officer at Wockhardt, Mr. Kaushik Ghate, Senior VP and Head Customer Analytics and Data Sciences from HDFC Bank, Anjana Rao, Chief Strategy Officer, India First Life Insurance, Anuj Gupta, Executive Architect, Data, Artificial Intelligence and Automation at IBM for India and South Asia, Sanjeev Mehta, Country Manager for AMD, and Mr. Utpal Chakraborty, former Head of Artificial Intelligence at Yes Bank. But before I move, just a quick line about me. Hopefully you want to know who the hell I am as well. So my name is Sandep Parikh, and I am a partner with EY. I lead the Intelligent Automation and Artificial Intelligence practice at the firm. I've been helping clients and businesses over the last 27 years to really generate tangible value by leveraging multiple technologies, which are these whole host of emerging technologies, right? I've had the fortune to work with some of the best organizations on the planet, such as Microsoft, Unilever, ICI, Mother Dairy, and of course now EY. I also happen to be a recent author. My book is called The Automation Conundrum, and it just released on Amazon, Flipkart. If you get a chance, please do read it, and hopefully you can share some feedback with me. Okay, With that, let's start the proceedings. What I do is kind of ask the panelists. I mean, this is a virtual format, so I'll really ask some questions to the panelists, and I pointedly call them out. So, the panelists will share their perspective. The first question that I had, and it often gets asked, is how are you building or right aligning your digital strategy in the new normal? Um, Kaushik, if we can actually start with you, sir, first, give us a perspective of what you're doing at the bank, and maybe if you could share a couple of customer experiences and technology experiences, would be great.
Sure, Sandeep. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be here. So, Sandeep, I would say that the new normal has only accelerated the pace. The strategy was there even before the new normal, and the core of that strategy is customer experience and convenience. We wanted the delivery of our products and services to be primarily self-service led, without any manual intervention. And we see our website as our biggest branch with over 25 million footfalls in a month, which includes existing as well as new customers. And for each of these customers, we wanted to serve an experience that was customized in many ways, which includes identifying who the customer is, what is the most relevant product or service for that customer, and how to serve that experience, etc. So that requires digital marketing as well as data science to work very closely, to make that happen, and which is what we are doing. We have invested in a martech stack that helps one in identifying who the customer is. Second, build those customer journeys for seamless delivery of products and services, and then also track and monitor drop-offs, pain points, which helps in improving the customer experience. Now, data science helps in identifying the customer need so that the most relevant experience can be pitched to the customer. The feedback in the form of response and clicks, or the lack of it, also gets fed back into the analytics engine to further sharpen the recommendations. So that is broadly how Martech and data science are coming together to help drive the digital strategy.
Great. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. Yogesh, if I could quickly bring you in, and if you could kindly share your perspective as well, from your journey at Bharat Forge. Yogesh?
I'm not sure whether he's
A little late. He's having some technical glitch, so he's got to join us in 5 minutes, please.
Okay, no problems.
Sorry.
No problems.
Yeah.
So I think Kaushik, you kind of let me just summarize. I think experience has been key, and the website is one aspect that you are kind of really trying to leverage as well. Okay, let me move to the next question that a lot of people have on their minds. I mean, this is around how are organizations really leveraging emerging technologies such as robotic process automation or machine learning or artificial intelligence, data analytics, IoT, blockchain across various service lines and functions. Utpal, could I probably call on you to share a couple of examples and how you've done it? I mean, you are a stalwart in this area. How have you done it, especially in the BFSI industry?
Sure, Sandeep. First of all, thank you so much for inviting me in this forum. So can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yeah,
We can.
Okay. Thank you so much. So I think, Sandeep, this pandemic has given us a chance and it is kind of a wake up call for the entire digital world. And now if you look at the banking and finance, especially, they are trying to render as much services as possible into their digital channels. So now digital channels, it could be your net banking, mobile banking, your chatbot, or your voice banking if you have, or any kind of even WhatsApp banking. So you are trying to render your services into these channels. Now the challenge here is actually you require the data, as well as if you want to do any kind of recommendation, you require those recommendation engines, as well as that personalization. If you want to bring, then definitely the technology like AI, machine learning, that comes into play. And for that, what actually is required is you require a kind of a data ecosystem first, and then only you will be able to, because if you talk about customer 360-degree data, so if you don't have a customer 360-degree data lake kind of a view, so definitely you will not be able to build that kind of recommendations. Okay, that personalized recommendation, or very customized recommendations. So I think that is one area. I think most of the financial institutions are focusing on today, probably in India as well as outside, of course. And then actually the other technology this comes. So now coming to RPA and other things, these are now slowly and gradually are becoming like hygiene. Okay, because wherever you have an opportunity, you do that process automation. But AI comes with much more power. So it can actually bring that element of intelligence into different parts of your system. I'm not talking about only the isolated AI applications for that matter. It could be bringing that intelligence within the bits and pieces, or within the corners of your enterprise application. It could be anything in your net banking, your other digital channels. So that's where I think the focus is going, and I think it will continue for a couple of years, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Utpal, just staying with you for a second, could you give one specific example from a typical bank or BFSI company, hopefully you can share, in terms of how they changed the experience? Maybe just one quick example in 60 seconds, if there is.
Yeah, absolutely. So probably if we talk about WhatsApp banking, okay, so WhatsApp banking, if you can think of just checking your balance, or probably a few other details, right? But how about, booking an FD, fixed deposit in WhatsApp banking, booking a recurrent deposit, or even taking a loan on your fixed deposit from the WhatsApp itself. So this is the kind of empowerment that the digital channels are getting today with the help of this kind of technologies. So this is an example. There could be many more examples.
Of course, fantastic. Thanks for that. Anjana, I'll kind of bring you in as well. Why don't you share your perspective, as the leader at a fairly innovative insurer? I think you're on mute, Anjana.
Yep. Thank you, Sandeep. I echo the views, which were presented by Kaushik and now by Utpal. Yes, I mean all that has happened by virtue of the pandemic is an acceleration. We already had plans. We already had, a direction that this is the way in which we need to go. This is how we are going to leverage the data. Now, what has happened is all of a sudden we have gathered a speed and a momentum, which is only helping us to move into that particular end state at a faster pace. Now, what are the things which we are leveraging on RPA as spoken about, but the innovative. So every industry and every organization will have its own dynamics, and the use cases then evolve. So what is the problem statement at hand? So if I want to create a capacity so that I become scalable, that's where we are looking at automation as a handle as to how do I make my operations more scalable. And so that is a mix of RPA plus AI. So where I displace the decisions made by humans or my underwriters or my risk assessors, and how do I displace those decisions with the bot. So it is a learning right now. It is at a learning. Some of them are already fairly stabilized. Some of the initiatives are fairly stabilized. Some of them where we are working on automated decisions, that is something where we are experimenting. We have not reached a stage where, but there are certain initiatives where we are replacing scrutinies done by any application form or supporting documents require a eyeball check. So we are able to now do it with the help of a bot.
Right.
So I don't need people to go through do the eyeball check. Yeah.
Right.
But there are underwriting decisions. Now these are this is something which we are experimenting. How do I displace those decisions and enhance my STP? So it's the drivers which matter. And then the use of technologies were always there. Technologies will be there. Newer technologies will come in. But this is where we are using a combination of RP and AI. Again, another area which we are exploiting is the ecosystem. So how we can use alternate, because the customer is already there. There are a couple of apps. He's spending time. He's not going to come to my app to do a particular transaction. So how do I make sure that my APIs are in place so that if at all I need to be a party to an ecosystem, I'm always ready to be a party to that ecosystem, so that my customer who spends maximum time in that ecosystem, we are already there. So WhatsApp is one example where, it's so easy. I mean, there's no learning curve, and we have seen it, when we were trying to make our processes contactless during the pandemic.
Right.
There was an instant uptake. And so while there was an effort at the organization's end to have the processes paperless, but for the customer, there was zero effort from learning curve perspective. So
Right.
yes, I mean, some
I think,
examples.
yeah, absolutely. And just staying with insurance, years ago, there was a massive concept around drone-based, assessment of accidental scenarios, right? And completely automated adjudication process. So I guess those, as you rightly mentioned, have matured and probably are going to the next step. There is a lot of experimentation going on, and insurance, as we know, has been kind of again, not in a bad way, but it's always been one of the slowest adopters of technology, not for the reasons that they can't adopt technology, but primarily it's the nature of that business where it's so risk prone that you just can't change. So no, I think that's a very appropriate response. We know data is becoming very important and critical, and I guess without data, it's going to be a massive challenge. There is, I've actually written in my book, sorry, this is not about my book, but I've said that data is the new oil. Organizations are now putting a new lens around this entire data management or data aspect. So I'd like to kind of also have our panelists throw some light around, what are their views around data architecting, data warehousing, data analysis, and how exactly is that helping? Dr. Parab, you are in the hot spot, if I may say. This pandemic has literally been, unfortunately, a place where pharma companies have been under tremendous pressure, but they've made use of huge amounts of data to really kind of, further their research in the shortest possible time. Could you throw some light on how is your organization leveraging this whole piece around data?
Good afternoon, everyone. And it was nice learning the use cases which is expressed by each one of you. Yes, indeed, it was really a tough time for last 1.5 years for us to meet. Actually, we were always in the race of meeting the external customer need, but this time also it was slightly a reverse internal customer demand, and that's where I think it is also interesting, because meeting internal customer demand, because they are at your arm's length and you need to get it. So many cases, I think for us it was an experience of teaching multiple emerging technology, and it is not one given a use case also, but we had a multiple technology to be stitched together. One of the area which really, RPA, it looks very simple, it looks fairly matured now, and you can deploy it. But when pharma, and what happens in RPA is you're handing a decision to a digital assistant, like it or not, because he's executing, the digital bot is executing on behalf of one of the individual. In pharma, we have a very clearly three-axis approach: patient safety, data integrity, product quality. And if we give a process which is a review process, or it could be checking process, it could be kind of analyzing process, if that process is handed over to a bot, and if there are false positive, there are going to be an issue. So how do we give a confidence that by introduction of this automation, which was must because of the scarcity of the labor and remote working, how do we ensure that the regulators, that we are not compromising on any of the process quality or integrity of that? That was the one challenge, and otherwise it would have taken more time, because the quality team and operations team would have asked many questions on the efficacy of the process of the bot rather, which was much easier because they also wanted, and we could jointly follow something called a GAM process, which is in line with CMM or the ISO, to prove that even if the bot is implemented, the quality or the patient safety is not at risk. This is one area where we definitely. The second one, which is brought by even Anjana, is about the ecosystem, which was vital for us, because for pharma, everything about ecosystem, whether it is testing, whether it is the contract manufacturing, whether my customer is in field, my distributor also is in field. So everything is outside. We need to connect ourselves. We are a hub. So ecosystem integration using a lot of artificial intelligence. Let's say when the invoice comes from or the order comes from my lot of distributor, they have a different formats. I can't keep telling them, no, send me an order in this kind. So all those papers, how can I use my intelligence to convert them into auto orders and still manage with the people? So our focus of this emerging technology is how do we bridge the gap of people shortages yet to meet the demand of the livelihood which is required for the patient. So for this gap, we chosen the relevant technology which was required. So that's one area. Definitely for R&D, we are still exploring. We are not that we are exploring a lot of natural language processing, where we are doing some clinical. Is there a way we can shorten the process? And also these are some of the areas which, and we have clearly said that can we differentiate our initiative from growth and operation excellence perspective. So because if you start mixing your strategy points, then it becomes a point solution which will have a, I would say, shorter life of survival in the organization, because it was need, people followed. After that, they will go back to that. So it should not happen. It should have a longevity, go live and keep improving on that. So these were some of the we backed the solution with the strategic thinking. If it is an operation excellence, is there a way it really will be tomorrow when it becomes digital, it is really going to sustain, or it is going to fall back? So these were some of the areas. So we definitely used some part of blockchain. We used, as I said, RPA was good. AI part, we used it. And we are also thinking about some of the AR, VR areas where we can bring an effectiveness as far as the training is concerned, because that's one area which in pharma is very critical. You cannot work unless you are trained and assessed to let's say if you're in you need to score 100% of the marks or whatever the assessment is, that you can't. In the remote, when people are remotely getting trained, instructor-led training become difficult. How do we really make the training effective? Otherwise, during the testing, during the operation, I may get out of specification, out of trend, and it eventually will result in a product quality. So these are some of the areas we felt we are not completely there, but we made use of technology not only to survive but to excel. So that's in short.
Right. I think greatly appreciate your perspective around how you are leveraging this technology, especially around covering people shortage, trying to look at some areas around R&D, and data becomes extremely crucial for you all across. Kaushik, you represent a bank, and from a banking landscape, again, there is a lot of data that gets generated. So reorganizing this data, is something that is very important even for the bank. I'm sure you don't want to end up paying or having extra zeros in someone's account. While the account holder, I'm sure, will not mind it, but I'm sure the bank would not like it that way. So I guess why don't you share your perspective around how important is data for you and how you're really organizing it at the bank?
Yeah, so I will talk about this in the context of data science because I represent data
Sure.
science practice in the bank, and the context is the capability building exercise that we have embarked upon, building up our data science capabilities. And while it started as an upgrade of data science capabilities, the scope has increased to include supporting infra, data engineering, data governance as well. And we are migrating our data science platform to cloud. The decision to go on cloud was taken after due deliberations on cost, performance, accessibility, scalability, security, etc. The usual parameters that we usually look at. So the data which was present on-prem in a various analytics data mart is being pushed to cloud. And being a bank, we also need to store the mapping table on-prem because you can't send personally identifiable information to cloud. We need to have an added layer of data sanitization to remove that. And if you are removing that, there has to be certain store where we can have the hashed ID to the real ID somewhere available, because that's how what you will use once the analytics process is done and you pull the data back from cloud.
Right.
And process, the flow is from enterprise data warehouse to on-prem server for de-identification, from on-prem server to a landing zone on cloud, and then on to the cloud database. And we have around 70 terabytes of data across 200 odd tables, some flowing daily, some flowing weekly or monthly. So there are a lot of moving parts. And as we go on cloud, data governance engineering becomes even more important. We need to ensure that data integrity is maintained as it moves through various steps on its journey to cloud. Earlier we thought, moving data from premise to cloud should be easy. We thought it would be as easy as Control C, Control V.
Right.
It's not. Yeah, there are various challenges around data format, quality metrics, reporting, speed, etc. The way it is stored on-prem and read on-prem is different than how it is stored and read on cloud. Therefore, what you may see as number of records on-prem will differ on cloud. So how
Right.
it reads at null values, how it treats leading zeros, or even a white space. All these things result in a mismatch in the quality metrics. So that is one important learning for us. That data engineering and data governance needs to go hand in hand with your other upgrade initiatives. And another thing that we learned is the entire value chain has to upgrade. The hardware, software, plumbing, processes, etc. So that has been an interesting experience so far, and we are still going through it, and we are quite positive that we'll have a successful initiative at the end of it. With that, over to you. Back to you, Sandeep.
Thanks, Kaushik. Kaushik, just I mean, just to give the audience an idea of the volume of data, would you have kind of an idea of how many terabytes of data do you guys handle on an annual basis?
Like I said, 70 terabytes.
70 terabytes, right? That's a huge, just one bank, right?
Yes.
And we've got so many banks in the country, and I think the volume of data just that our financial systems actually produce is humongous. Yogesh, I'll just kind of digress slightly. I think you were not there when we started the conversation. You were having some technical difficulties. So I just wanted to get a sense, Yogesh. You represent one of the largest engineering and manufacturing companies in the country, right? How are you guys leveraging emerging technologies, particularly to really, reimagine business at your end or reimagine processes at your end? Maybe if you could share some examples in a couple of minutes.
Thank you, Sandeep. My apologies. I think as usual, I started and this Windows patch came and I think I was not able to join the link at all.
No problems.
And yeah, sorry for that. So coming back to overall Bharat Forge or overall manufacturing segment of industry actually. Just like Miss earlier days like BFSI, overall banking, insurance, these are a highly tech-oriented company, and manufacturing was little bit laggard in terms of adaptation of digital technologies. Suddenly everything changed. Not only in COVID, I think last 2-3 years that journey for most of the organization, people were exploring. Some of them have started, and then we're moving ahead. The challenges is, as everyone says, that the hookah word also hit manufacturing in during COVID situation. Overall volatility in business has you can't predict the market at all actually. Every day schedule, the schedules which used to be there constant for a year have come to maybe 2 days or 1 day revision. And then the way you need to plan things have changed significantly. So everywhere information plays or data at a real time plays very vital role. As such, as a strategy, we started the overall journey of digital in last 3 years back, and then as most of other companies, we started with the IIoT part of it. So where we decided to go with one platform and then started connecting all our forging presses. And initial, of course, initial focus was on condition monitoring. And the first challenge given was, of course, Mr. Chairman of Kalyani Group being very aggressive. The first target given was zero unplanned downtime in hydraulic, pneumatics, and electronics, and then how to use sensor or realign all our processes for that. Of course, there industrial IoT played a very vital role. Similarly, next challenge given was for energy, because again, being a forging industry, we are a lot of energy consuming company. Like just to set a context, every day we spend 1 crore worth energy. So any savings there? Savings will not only come from digital. Digital can throw the data, but then interventions are required. So between last year and this year, we actually reduce energy by almost 23%, which is significant in terms of from our sustainability target perspective. Similar thing for overall production improvement. Of course, when you talk about downtime reduction, it impacts your overall productivity in the organization. There also, for some of the forging lines, we could improve productivity of almost 15%. With combination of all, I'll say manufacturing, if you're tracking manufacturing, typical digital lean was the initiative. Most of the organization used to take TPM, TQM was the journey on earlier days. So now the TPM, TQM along supported by digital, and then taking some strategic step towards overall initiative. Those help significantly. There are many initiatives, because end of the day, we are talking about, when people talk about industry 4.0, it's not about 1 or 2 initiatives. It is about horizontal and vertical integration across the organization. Some of it we did well, some of it we are still struggling, or maybe we'll go step by step there. And one more thing we did good was, of course, reskilling of our task force with respect to overall digital. Because problem in manufacturing is, if you see Bharat Forge, we carry 60 years legacy, and then we have mix of people, mix of shop floor technologies, and mix of processes also. And then being a global leader in metal forming, this disparity is very high, and 60 years of legacy. So mapping all these processes and reskilling played a very vital role, where we took a challenge to reskill all our 2,500 employees in digital, or specifically mechatronics, and then moving data to industrial IoT platform, and then what to do with data. Because for shop floor person, he understands his machine well. IT person can show him data, but then end of the day, that person has spent his life on machine. The way he can interpret that data, if we enable him to do that, it can take the outcome to next level. And that's what we did good, I think.
I think you're absolutely right. Mindsets and reskilling are going to play a supremely important role. I think very well put. See, I mean, so far we've spoken about different kind of initiatives. We've spoken about data, how organizations are trying to reorganize it. What I think most people don't realize is that like any initiative in an organization, there are challenges even facing this entire digitization and transformation journey in any organization. Now, Dr. Parab, why don't you throw some light on how are you trying to tackle some of these changes, especially at Wockhardt?
So these are definitely, these are cultural, and you can't move the elephant overnight. So that's the challenge you have it. But what happens is for a transformation related, if we start looking only at a people process technology triangle, it will not bring the transformation which is required. So you need to overlay another triangle, which is mindset, skill set, and a people set. If you overlay that, because you here as Yogesh mentioned about, what is most important is there a mindset change, or there is a fear in that people that with digital or with RPA my job is at stake. So how are you going to change the mindset? You bring a solution before changing the mindset, it will generate the inertia or kind of resistance, and you will they will find a way how to make it fail. So that's something which none of us wanted. So the mindset is very vital, and it is not that your own organization bring the training and it will work. No. So we made a compulsory to each one of our people that they need to attend at least in a quarter 15 to 20 sub kind of webinars. Not our. We also talked about two other other functions. Because now a lot of webinars are coming and they can always go and get themselves listen, because the idea here is to listen from outside people what digitalization means, and if the internal people talks about it, it does not carry that much weightage. So that's it's not that it is working fully, but it is making people to think, and they themselves come and talk about, okay, do we have this technology, because I heard in some kind of forum. So they started thinking in that direction. So that's a mindset is definitely skill set is definitely a function of good amount of adaptive training, because if we can't be overnight a data science, but what we follow here is given an initiative, it could be lower down technology or the high end sophisticated AI and all kind of thing. The moment we take the initiative, at that point, before 8 days or 10 days, they will undergo a rigorous training of that technology. Because when they work with a partner or a technology, many crowdsourcing we do it, then they are not new to technology. They are already aware of the process. So if they are not new to technology, then the drive becomes easier. So this is where the skill set is something which we practiced. Again, the results are not that they're great, but they are far better than otherwise it would be. So that is which will take time to move, because IT mindset and digital mindset are still different, because people who are with IT mindset, they are process skewed.
Right.
People with the data digital, you need to data skewed. So that's a difference between. So that will take a time, but these are some of the instrument which we said, and you can bring the what we have also done is, if the person, let's say in a supply chain, somebody is very good in his earlier role, is good in analyzing the data in Excel or in some kind of dashboarding and or rows of column reports. Then we thought that this person can be a good then part of the data analysis kind of group. So can you group the skills, people set in such a way that they will find that technology very close to what they are aware. So there is some kind of reorganization. Each function should be a digital function. So these is a continuous process, but it is going on, and this is what we felt. So I'm not sure. I'll be happy to hear from the others as well.
Yeah, no, I think that's well put. Let me get in a perspective from the other side. I mean, so far you're all practitioners and you're all, on the enterprise side. I mean, let me bring in Anuj to give his perspective. From the other side of the table, Anuj, when you kind of consult clients, what are the challenges you see, the clients are facing on their digitization and transformation journey? I think Dr. Parikh spoke about mindset, skill set, the right kind of people. But what else are you seeing?
Yeah, sure. So I think one challenge which I see is that customers are actually mixing digitization, modernization, and transformation right into a single initiative, and many times they're confused, right? So we start with objective of business transformation. However, we spend all the effort in replacing one set of technology with another without any business outcome. I mean, I've seen cases where manual process is actually more efficient than digital. So I heard a customer recently, stopping a 15 million transformation project midway as they did not see the business benefit coming from the project. So I think digitization and modernization are required, but they are not the end objective, right? Transformation is about reimagining, the business processes using, like you said, I mean, insights from the data to impact KPIs like customer experience, customer life time value, revenue, margins. And definitely it will require technologies like cloud, data, analytics, AI integration, AI-powered automation, including process mining. That's the important thing, right? Because we need to ensure that whatever customers are investing, right? I mean, currently they are all doing technical digitization, right? Because of COVID and other things. But it's important that all these initiatives are aligned to, strategic business transformation. So to address this, typically I suggest is kind of an automated framework to discover actual processes from data. Then deciding what to automate by aligning it to business, KPIs and benefits, and only after that you decide what to automate, rather than just going for some pointed automations, right?
Sure.
And finally, I think the most important thing is to have a continuous monitoring and optimization of process, because business models will keep on changing. The technology will keep on changing. There will be a lot of So we need to make sure that there is a kind of a, I call it enterprise running on an autopilot mode, where you are leveraging the data and the insights to basically keep on monitoring your processes and optimizing it to ensure that you're getting the right benefit in terms of those business KPIs and achieving the ROI and desired business outcomes, right?
Sure. Okay. Anjana, could I kind of bring you in a quick 60 seconds on your thoughts around what are the challenges organizations face on their digital transformation journey? I think we heard Dr. Parikh talk about mindset, skill sets, and Anuj spoke about the whole alignment to strategic business transformation initiatives, continuous monitoring, etc.
So yes, thanks. I I would say the challenge or something which is lacking, is the efforts to align. So who is looking at the end state? Is it a set of users who are driving the business transformation program, or is it along with the impacted stakeholders? So if together we are looking at, this is the end state which I'm going to achieve, and if I achieve this end state, what is it that the organization is going to achieve? What is it that every business unit is going to achieve? So everybody knows what is in it for me. And so that anxiety which is there, I call it decoding. Decoding and dreaming about the end state together, and then working back and saying what is in it for me, for every business department and business unit. as long as this particular bridge is built, that if I do this, this is how the company gets impacted, this is how my business unit gets impacted, and for this, to do this, to achieve this, what is it that each one of us has to do? Be
Okay.
it upskilling, be it initiatives, these are the 10 things if every department does. So for that, it's a top-down approach, definitely, but I feel the essential ingredient is binding them with the end state.
Okay. So, and change management plays a crucial role over there.
Very vital role, yes.
Thank you. Again, we coincidentally, we spoke about skill set, mindset, etc. And that brings me to the next challenge that the industry is probably facing is talent. So yes, we are looking at skill set and upskilling people who are going to adopt these technologies, but people who are actually on the ground, practitioners executing these technologies, that talent and skill set is also changing dramatically. Kaushik, would you kind of share a perspective on how you see the demand on talent changing and what kind of skills are really now being required or called upon?
Demand is only increasing, for this kind of talent, and there is no supply. So it's kind of a perennial problem, kind of a drought, I would say. Not
Right.
talent we want, and based on our experience of what we have been trying to do and what we have gone through in the last few months, for me the biggest requirement now is that of automation skills. So there was a talk of mindset, data versus process. So I realized that, but for me right now it is the automation that I need, because even in data science there are processes that can be automated. Data science is supposed to be iterative, it's supposed to be exploratory, and data engineering, definitely there are processes and pipelines that can be automated. Even on data science side, there are certain processes that can be automated, and I believe that a lot of time will be freed up if we are able to automate those, and that will make time for doing higher order work. So for me, the biggest requirement right now is that of people with an automation mindset who can look out for, okay, this we can automate, this we can automate, while we're still doing it manually. So that's how I'm looking at it right now. And the basic foundation that still remains, curiosity, passion for this discipline, and attitude, that part doesn't change. But on top of it, automation is going to be a definite advantage.
Right, and I think we are actually unfortunately going through a phase of attrition going up across organizations, across industries, not just in on the tech side or the services side, and people demanding a lot more money. The unfortunate reality is, anyone who can spell RPA wants twice the money that he was getting. But jokes apart, Yogesh, are you also experiencing something similar? On the manufacturing side, typically movement there from a people standpoint is fairly low.
I think everything is changed in manufacturing also.
Right.
Of late, we started seeing a lot of attrition in manufacturing also. The challenge again is that deploying these kind of technologies, especially in manufacturing, when we talk about purely from shop floor perspective, overall digital is a different story. But then when we talk about shop floor specific technologies, the domain knowledge matters a lot actually, because many times outsider very rarely can help you for core issues. The person who knows your processes well, or rather who knows your machine well, can add significant value there. And protecting that team is most critical for us.
Okay.
The people who can add value into the journey of digital. The person may not be from IT, need not be from IT, but then having domain expert and can contribute for the knowledge matters a lot.
Sure.
And overall knowledge also, see, as everyone knows that there is shortage of data scientists, and again, data scientist is very large term, but then even the person who really able to understand the data and correlate that data in real way it becomes very difficult because it always needs a mixture of domain and then the IT. We are seeing is tremendous challenge there because
Sure.
typical doing condition monitoring and then utility monitoring, saving energy through that is the simplest part of shop floor journey. Real quick starts if you could really project the failure of forging press
Right.
and with all the algorithms which you feel that you are able to build, and that's the trick. I think that skill set shortage is still going to be there, and many times we feel that training our own employees and taking only help for niche technology part from outside helps a lot here.
Sure, sure. No, I think you're right, and I mean, there's a lot of citizen development that's kind of happening in organizations where people are being trained to really also become. I mean, as you rightly said, Yogesh, you have process expertise, but also generate tech expertise and try and help yourself there. Um, we kind of spoke about how the pandemic has actually accelerated this whole digital transformation journey. What can actually be done by these technologies? How are organizations leveraging that? And we also spoke about, the challenges being faced on this digitization transformation journey, as well as the fact that, the requirements around talent and skill set is actually changing. Now that brings us to another aspect of this entire digitization process, which is our own country and the economy therein. Now, with digitization becoming so big globally, and India, of course, as I started off by saying in my opening note, that India is truly leading that space. There's a tremendous push and tremendous tailwind that we have from a global standpoint, which hopefully will assist local enterprises. At this point, let me finally get Sanjeev in. I think, sorry for the long wait, Sanjeev. But Sanjeev, I think you represent one of the largest tech manufacturing companies, as well as chip makers. But what's your view around, is this global tailwind really going to help local enterprises in India from services, tech manufacturing, and in general, enterprise and help the economy?
Yeah, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I think Sandeep, some amazing insights from everyone. I think what has happened is CIO's role has become very critical now. It's not just restricted to IT. They are influenced on customer experience to business to revenue, making sure, and revenue is not only revenue, it also talks about how do you create more revenue streams, right? Both for the top line and the bottom line. So that's important. Right. Data is becoming critical, as we heard. There's huge petabytes of data that's been generated, and so it's age of more of an information technology where what you do with that data is very important, right? And that data is helping not only what the CIOs are doing, are helping with automation and artificial intelligence, helping business to actually take the right decision in terms of what markets they need to play in, what changes that we need to do in, how do we engage with customers, and various aspects of the business. It could be the marketing person, or maybe the salesperson, or the CXO or DA, any of the CXOs for that matter. And transformation is no more just the effort of the CIOs, and that's a good part, because now it's become more of a boardroom discussion, right? Earlier, probably the CIOs were struggling to get the support that they required in terms of either investment or the changes that was required, right? So that change that we have seen. And with this huge amount of data and the newer application that's there, there's a need for the infrastructure to be changed, right? the way we are operating in country today, right? It is speculated that our ISVs and software as a service players, the SaaS players, will contribute more than 20% to the global revenue. So there's tremendous opportunity for India as a country to actually contribute to the world in terms of doing that part, right? We have seen a lot of our IT companies outgrowing some of the global players as well. Recently, TC was announced as the larger player against even Accenture for that matter, right? So they are contributing in a big way. They're 70% of their business is coming from outside the world, but they are now being pushed and they are seeing that there's opportunity that exists in country as well. And now they are focusing on what can be done to automate and use technology for India as well, right? One of the area with so much of processing that's required is also about your infrastructure. So you need to modernize your application, you need to modernize your infrastructure. And that could be at the core, at the edge, or at the cloud, right? And I think that's where we as AMD, along with our partners like Dell, we play a role where we are helping the exascale of the data processing that's really required. The faster turnaround time. We heard from from BFSI, from manufacturing, or from a pharma organization as to how much data that is being generated, but what do you do with that, right? If you're able to take a timely decision with the data that you have, is going to be critical. So using the right, changing the infrastructure, using the modern application is important, right? And one of the point that you mentioned, and we're very proud that AMD as an organization, 2,000 odd engineers sitting in India are contributing to that technology, right? And we have seen some tremendous progress that we have made in terms of how we are scaling up at every aspect of the infrastructure that you need, right?
Right.
And I think RPA is not really a risk. I would call it's an opportunity, right? People used to use legacy systems, legacy applications. They actually changed, and there are people who have actually moved to that, right? Look at similarly adoption of cloud. People are now reskilling, and now today the opportunity that exists for people who are there into the traditional data center to looking at cloud as an opportunity is changing. So any automation that happens in manufacturing or say warehouse or in pharma or anywhere, it's actually the reskilling that's going to help, right? And so there should be a lot of effort, and we heard many of these stalwarts speak about that, right? That encouraging them to participate in webinars where they will hear from outside and then they feel that, yeah, I need to be learning more about this, right? My son is a fresh graduate, right, from Purdue, but he also sees that what he learned in the last 4 years versus the practical experience that he's getting, he still feels that he needs to reskill himself, right? So that's an ongoing process. You have to keep reskilling yourself to make a lot of relevance within the system, right? One of the area that again that we feel important is the carbon footprint. How do we work towards that, right? We need to make our processes as clean as possible to reduce that. And that's where one more area where we as AMD come in, where we can help reduce your footprint in your data center, or even if you're doing something at the edge, we can help you with the kind of technology that we have. And I think one of the most important aspect that is very relevant today, and I think Kaushik being in BFSI or even in pharma, they will correlate is the data security, right? And I think that becomes a very, very critical aspect to consider, even if you're looking at automation or using artificial intelligence. You need to keep security at your core. And that's where, again, AMD doing encryption within our processor, not as an afterthought or as a software layer on top of it, right? But as part of the silicon, a processor within the processor to secure your data while in use, while in transit, becomes very, very critical, right? So my two bits would be there's a huge opportunity that exists for every organization, for us as a country, from reskilling perspective to take this country to, the aspiration of what we have as, multi-trillion-dollar economy.
Right.
And leveraging that technology, different technology is just a tool. Right? You use blockchain or AR, VR or AI or ML or data science, or it's a tool. What you use, which suits you best, is important. But important is to use that.
Absolutely.
Right? Like Anuj said, or organizations are not willing to spend, but that transformation can be into your own small way. You start with your journey. And if you look at it from the maturity model perspective, right, on a 5-step model, you might be at probably 2.5 or 3. But there's still opportunity for various industries or verticals or processes to scale to that maturity level, right? So I say, there's huge opportunity. There's a lot of work being done. Having said that, because we are catering to 1.3 billion people in the country, we have gone through tough times. Pharma to BFSI to manufacturing, everybody have stepped up.
Right.
Been very creative, very, very innovative, some of them extremely disruptive in the right way of using technology to reach out to customer, make their product services available, make people survive, make people feel comfortable, right? So I think there's tremendous work there, but yeah, there's potential for us to do more as a technology company, as industry and as a country as well.
Perfect. I think well said. CI's role is absolutely changing. I think you're bang on there. They are becoming far more responsible for generating unique experiences, revenue, be it top line, bottom line, and even to that extent, hopefully generating products by leveraging some of these technologies. And I think I really liked your point around this whole carbon footprint area. Make your processes as clean as you can. Very, very important points. There were several, but in the interest of time, Utpal, you've been around in the industry as well for a fairly long time. How do you see India's emergence on the global stage? As the tip of the spear rather than just the back office boys and girls, from a typical BPO age we've kind of moved on. We're no longer just the back office people. So just give us a quick flavor around innovation or research led by leveraging emerging technologies.
Yeah, so I think there are 3 areas here. So one, you say it rightly, and probably that was the perspective that the entire world had a couple of years back. But now I think it has changed a lot because, if we talk about the emerging technologies only, like AI, machine learning, and all those things, we are already, this generation, if you look at, so you can call it as an IT generation, right? Because they have seen the entire journey of IT. And converting these people into a decent data scientist, okay, or probably someone who is good at automation, or probably data engineering area, is quite easy in India, right? Because there are many such courses available, many platforms are available where they can actually upskill themselves. So in that way, even the world has also realized that these things are much more cheaper in India compared to any parts of the world. So that is one opportunity, and already I've seen like the academia and industry collaboration is already happening, okay, which is very, very important, because that R&D or the research angle, it comes from the academia, right? Most of them. And that is also very, very important. Okay, so like for example, like in our IITs, like Bombay IIT and Madras IIT, so they are doing quite a lot research on the natural language processing, NLP, okay, on the Indian linguistic models. Similarly, if we talk about very latest quantum computing, okay, which is the quantum ML, quantum machine learning, which is a hot topic today. And I think BFSI, there are a lot of use cases like optimization use cases, not only BFSI, but other areas also. So here also, like if you talk about Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, okay, so they are already doing a great research on that, and they are trying to collaborate with the industry. So I think in that way, if this collaboration happens in the right way, and also the startups, because the startup ecosystem, they are also coming up with brilliant solutions and all those things. And the world has already seen many of our startups their solutions and their these things has been funded by many Silicon Valley investors, right? So and that is a very good sign. So to answer your question, like that perspective is already changing, and probably in a couple of years it is going to change a lot. And pandemic has actually played a very good role in terms of bringing that angle, because the whole focus is now in India. So now it is completely up to us how we can tap into those opportunities, right? Because the whole world is looking into us. Okay, so they want to kind of, because there are some initiatives going on. Some of the organizations are doing like gateway to Indian market, where they are trying to partner with some of the companies from outside, okay, having cutting-edge products, how to give them an opportunity into Indian market, okay, with collaboration of Indian startups.
Right.
So I think there are brilliant opportunities in coming years, Sandeep.
No, I think very well said. And, I'll just sum up what you said by saying that it is our opportunity to lose, basically. It is India's opportunity to lose if we don't kind of really pick it up. Everything's fairly set for us at this stage. I want to kind of get to the last part of the conversation. The technology ecosystem itself is evolving significantly. 5 years ago, it was just robotic process automation. Another 5 years ago, it was really barely macros, etc. And today, of course, we've got hyper automation and quantum computing and so on and so forth. Anuj, in the interest of time, quick 30 seconds on your perspective around where is this ecosystem headed over the next 5 years?
Yeah, sure. So look, now, enterprises like speed to market requirement have changed from years to weeks. One bank told me that they want to roll out a new AI-based, fully automated lending app in 4 weeks, which we were able to do, right? And for this, you need domain-specific out-of-box services and solutions which can be integrated with the existing landscape, right? So this has expanded the role of ecosystem and ISVs into the enterprise domain. So these partners will be providing out-of-box AI models and automations, like I heard, a lot about scale issues and all those things. So they are actually going to provide these for various industries, and we have to just reuse. So for example, IBM has developed a plug-and-play technology that can, on the fly orchestrate a business flow using the component capabilities coming from various partners, right, or multiple partners.
Right.
I think this will lead to a huge growth, and a significant role for ecosystem in digital transformation and automation. And within IBM also, we are actually doing a lot of work with ISVs and OEMs and SIs together to build these capabilities for our customers.
Cool.
Thanks.
Sanjeev, 30 seconds, your perspective.
I think Sanjeev has logged out. He has a meeting to attend.
That's perfectly fine. So I think I'm going to basically wrap up very quickly. We've heard some fantastic comments. First, some key words that I kind of pick up. One, the CIO's role is changing, and I'm speaking about it primarily because we have hopefully a lot of CIOs watching us at this point in time. The CIOs no longer are just the technology shop owners. They have the responsibility of really helping transform different aspects of the business. And I hope they are listening and they can actually really start, focusing on that area. I've been a CIO myself for many years, so I can tell you that is actually true. We've had this whole thing around mindset, skill set, people requirement, this whole change around academia and industry collaborations that's happening. Data sciences is crucial. I think we heard interesting perspectives from Yogesh, from Kaushik, from Anjana, Utpal, Dr. Parab, of course, Anuj, Sanjeev, and the other panelists. So to close out, I would quickly summarize the session. Enterprises are reinventing to adapt to disruptions like the one we are currently experiencing. The unfortunate reality is that the current pandemic has only accelerated that journey. Emerging technologies such as intelligent automation along with data sciences are turning out to be the topmost levers being used to reimagine operations, business operating models, refining supply chains, adapting sales and marketing to the new normal, creating unique end consumer experiences, just to kind of call out a few. Automation and data sciences are also being seen as strategic levers rather than tactical ones. And I say this with some emphasis over there. We heard some really powerful stories across the board. I hope the audience has got some fodder for thought. I'd like to thank the panelists for their valuable insights, and I do hope the audience has got a good idea of how you can leverage and deploy this technology in your respective organizations. Just to sum up, this discussion, two of my quotes: it is not about man versus machine, but about man with machine. So, don't fear the automation revolution. And data is the new oil. Our world is now running on data. Don't forget this, right? Once again, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for your time today. Dave, back to you.
Lovely. What a lovely session. What a lovely session. Thank you so much, Sandeep, and thank you very much, distinguished panelists. This was a superb session. This session was undoubtedly very engrossing and thought-provoking, to say the least, and also sets the tone and mood for the other sessions to follow from here on. We were able to get a preview of various insights given by industry leaders here, and thanks to the eclectic, I would want to use the word eclectic, an eclectic mix and blend of professionals drawn from leading industry segments that helped this panel take on some very interesting questions. Thank you so much, Sandeep. Thank you so much, dear panelists. We hope to have you on board very soon for our other bespoke offerings. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So that was lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So friends, that was the wonderful power panel discussion number 1.